Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Air Canada, connecting the world with more than 1,000 daily flights to 180 destinations and 6 continents.
Harbor flight to Miami Beach or to Hollywood, but I'm taking a Greyhound on the Hudson River line. I'm in a New York state of mind.
I am. And I am in New York. Hello, everybody, for this third Thursday of June 2025. Peter Greenberg here with our global travel update for this weekend. Boy, we have a lot of ground to cover, so let's get right to it before I get to your questions. But please feel free to chime in anytime you want, and we'll get to that in a second. Of course, the situation in the Middle East, Israeli airspace all closed. El Al took every one of their assets out, meaning they flew all their planes out of Israel, nothing on the ground there. You can't get in, you can't get out. So many U.S. tourists were in Israel trying to get out. They are actually reaching out to me. We were able to give them the directions so they could leave. And it's not as difficult as you think. Either through the Allenby Bridge, which separates Israel and Jordan. Remember, they've had a peace treaty there for a number of decades, or even down south between Eilat and Aqaba. There's a crossing there as well. But the easier one is the Allenby Bridge, because once you cross it, you're only a 40-minute drive to the Amman airport. From there, you fly to London and you come home. We are going to be obviously monitoring that situation in the hours, days, and weeks ahead. It's really quite fluid at this point. Some people are actually going by boat, sailing from Israel to Cyprus. Look at the map. You'll see how close Cyprus actually is, and there are opportunities there as well. But of course, it's disrupting travel globally as airlines basically have to figure out where they can fly over and where they can't. There's a lot of airspace right now that may be closed anywhere because of Ukraine. So this is adding time, fuel, and cost to a lot of flights in that region. Not to mention having an impact on people traveling to the United States or people traveling from the United States to get to the region, already affected by fear of immigration, deportation, the general economy, and of course at least the suggestion that the Trump administration is about to ban another 29 countries from traveling to the U.S. We're staying on top of that as well. Now, I know most of you are not vacationing in Turkmenistan, one of those countries listed, but St. Lucia's even on the list, which is surprising to me. In any case, we'll be following that as well. What does that mean for your travels? Well, more and more Americans are opting to stay within the continental U.S. this summer. It will be the summer of the domestic road trip or the domestic air trip. And as a result, law of supply and demand, airfares are generally rising within the continental U.S. at a rate of about 4% every 4 or 5 days. So the longer you procrastinate to make your plans, the higher the fare is going to be. We've already seen it jump in certain markets. I mean, San Francisco to New York is a fare that should be about $350 or less. It's now $787. However, San Francisco to Philadelphia is $250 round trip. Go figure. You can always take Amtrak for the rest. But in any case, just watch out. Airfares are going up, and so will hotel fares, as well as rental car rates. All right, enough about that. Now, let's get into the follow-up and the continuing investigation of the Air India crash last week. You may have heard on my radio show, I had Greg Feith, the former lead investigator for the NTSB, as we talked about what investigators were looking for. We were not conjecturing as to what happened, just to what the investigators were looking for. They did recover both the flight data recorder in the tail and the cockpit voice recorder in the cockpit. They're analyzing them now. There is some concern about electrical supply and whether or not that recorder was functioning at the time of the incident, because there's a question about electrical power for the rest of the plane at the time of the incident. Here's what we're looking at, and here's what the investigators are looking at. And again, I preface this by saying nothing has been concluded yet, but this is based on only the evidence we know and have witnessed. Go back and look at that video, the longer video of the plane's full rollout from the beginning to its takeoff, and then it's settling down into that flat stall and the impact. The runway length at that airport in India is about 11,500 feet. very long. And you always love long runways, especially when you have situations with heat, which affects lift, and long haul planes, which this was, carrying a full load of passengers for a 9-hour flight from India to London. But that is sufficient length of runway for any wide body plane, no matter what, including temperature and heat. Well, let's go back and look at that video. If you look at the performance characteristics of a 787, fully loaded, heading in that temperature, in that direction, on that runway, the most length of that runway that a plane like that would ever use during a normal takeoff, even in those conditions, is between 7,500 and 8,000 feet. Remember, the runway is 11,500 feet. Now go back and look at that video. That plane used all 11,500 feet. And as it took off, you could see a cloud of dust rise because at the end of the runway, that's not active. Nobody uses it. That's where dust gathers and sand and grit. That's an indication about his thrust. And that's also an indication about his speed. Was he going too fast to stop but too slow to adequately maintain lift and positive climb? They're looking at that. And we're going to find out, at least in the next 72 hours, what they discover on the black boxes, because that will lead them to a very good point of being able to rule a lot of stuff out before they ever rule anything in. Having said that, Boeing has some explaining to do. They've delivered a number of new 787 Model 9 Dreamliners to American Airlines. And most of those planes now, most of those 4 planes they just delivered, have been grounded. Not because of what happened to Air India, because we still don't know, but because of what seems to be poor workmanship on the part of Boeing in delivering those planes. We go back to inspections, folks. I've been talking about this for months. Of the 3 or 4 planes that were delivered and the flight they were scheduled, I think only 2 operated. The rest either returned to the gate, were grounded, or were ferried back for maintenance because they were deemed not flyable. We're following that as well. All right. Now, there's the FAA, there's inspections, there's Boeing, and then there's the air traffic control system and airline scheduling itself. Now, under the ATC system, we've talked about this before. We're going to continue to talk about it until the FAA changes their procurement policies and allowing them to get the equipment they need when they need it. But now let's just talk about airline scheduling. I've always said that airport departure boards haven't told the truth since 1947. I still believe that. I don't rely upon that at all. Anytime you see the words on time, by whose metric, by whose standard, right? Let me give you an example of what happened to me just yesterday, and I'll show you what I mean. Before we run this little visual, I was flying on a flight from Chicago O'Hare to Madison, Wisconsin. Now, that flight is a short flight. How short? In the air, the elapsed time that's noted on the books is 24 minutes. Barely enough time to get your seatbelt on and get your seatbelt off. Okay. So I get out to the airport for that flight, and it shows the following when I get to the gate. Show the picture. Look behind me. Can you see what it says? Boarding in how many minutes? Seems reasonable. Seems like the plane's on time. One small problem. Look behind me to the other side. There's no plane. The plane hadn't even landed yet. It's coming from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. There were no weather issues. There were no air traffic control issues. There was not a missing crew member. There was not a mechanical. Bad scheduling. Bad scheduling. And of course, the gate agent doesn't know anything because the operations of American Airlines treats the agents on a need-to-know basis. If they need to know, they don't even tell them. Right? We took off about an hour and 50 minutes late on a flight that should have elapsed 24 minutes. Right? It's crazy. And this is going on all throughout the summer, which has nothing to do with air traffic control in this particular case. It has to do with bad airline scheduling. But wait, folks. It gets worse. We took off late for another reason. When that other plane finally showed up late, there was nobody there to help the people off the plane who were in wheelchairs. Now, anytime a plane departs, they send a message to the arriving station that tells them, here's what time we're leaving, here's what time we're arriving. In fact, anytime a plane pushes back from the gate, there's a machine in the cockpit called the ACARS. For lack of, just for simplicity reasons, it's basically a fax, right? And that ACARS sends a fax to operations. The minute it detects the nose gear moving in reverse, this is the time we push back. This is the time we're getting to that location, which is our next airport. So there are no surprises. They knew way ahead of time when we were showing up. They had no agents at the gate to take the people out on wheelchairs, and there were 7 people on wheelchairs on that plane. That delayed us another 35 minutes. Ridiculous and avoidable. Now, you can't tell me that they didn't know we were coming. You can't tell me they didn't know we were leaving. And of course, everybody had a carry-on bag, none of which would fit on the plane. They all had to be gate checked, which meant that when we arrived in Madison, I didn't send you this photograph to post, but you're going to have to trust me. There were 35 people in the jetway waiting for their bags. It was a mess. Couldn't even get off the plane. Where is common sense? And we're getting into the busy summer travel season. You cannot post a schedule that you know when you post it, you cannot operate. Southwest Airlines got fined by the DOT last year for doing just that. And guess what? Under the Trump administration, they let that fine lapse. No consequences for that bad behavior. They can schedule anything they want. Even if they know they can't operate it. Something wrong there, folks. We have to, I'm not calling for re-regulation. I'm calling for the implementation of 2 words, common sense, and a little basic math. All right. That's my rant on American. But by the way, how do you like it? It was boarding in 9 minutes or whatever it was. There's no plane anyway. All right. There's that. Now, keeping in mind that we're looking at truth in scheduling, we also have to look about, truth in apologizing, right? Nobody gives you information. The app is hopeless, right? And the gate agent is a stricken bird because they're told nothing as well. The fish stinks from the head, folks. Fix it. And I'm not just applying this to American Airlines, which, by the way, comes in dead last among major carriers when it comes to what? Operational reliability, not to mention baggage. Something for them to think about. All right. Now, let's have some fun. I didn't do this last week. I forgot. We're doing it this week, my geography quiz again. So I want you to think, which country has 7,000 islands? Everybody want to guess? I'll give you a second part of that question. Which country has 18,000 islands? And then the real kicker, which country has the most islands? All right. Let's see who jumps in here. I'm going to scroll up here. All right. Jeff says the country with 7,000 islands is the Philippines. He's right. The country with 18,000 islands is Indonesia. And the one that surprises everybody, the country with 24,000 islands is Sweden. Who knew? Well, now you do. Now you do. All right. Just wanted to share that with you. That's our geography quiz for the day. Please, everybody, go out and buy yourself an atlas. It's one of the best purchases you'll ever make. Let's scroll down and say hello to some people here before we go to some other questions. All right. Of course, Jim and Harriet, always numero uno. Tayo's in Maryland today. Sue's saying from Bellingham. Charlie, hello from hot and steamy Louisiana. Charlie, let me know if the LSU team is going to win the World Series, okay? We're talking baseball. Michelle's saying for happy Juneteenth, right back to you. Priya's saying hello. Oh, hope you're doing well. I am. I got back from Madison, Wisconsin. Late again, by the way, on Delta. Delta was late 2.5 hours yesterday. So was American. I was only in Madison to have lunch. It was the world's fastest lunch, I have to tell you. Robin saying hello from beautiful Williamsburg. Hello, hello. Mary just saying hello from Pennsylvania. Randy saying from beautiful but rainy northern Michigan. We love the UP. Okay, Tisha's saying hi from rainy Holly Springs, Georgia. It's raining out there. Okay. Going to Mexico City in October. This is from Lena. Any idea where will be the best time to airline tickets? Okay, well, I'll give you a rule of thumb. October is not a bad month to go to Mexico, and which means you can basically start booking around 54 days out. So just take your calendar, go to the day you're leaving in October, backdate it 54 days, start looking like a 3-day window around those 54 days, and you have a pretty good idea of what's going to cost you. Jeff saying he's going to Japan this summer for 2 weeks. My Tokyo friend recommends Japan wireless eSIM. Do you ever buy an eSIM when traveling? I don't. I'm not opposed to it, but I use T-Mobile, which gives me access at very reduced rates for both data and voice. I think I'm probably low, but I say about 145 countries, Japan being one of them. All right. Colleen says, I ran out of hot water in my hotel room last night. You once told us how to avoid that at check-in by asking a specific question. I forgot what that question was. Okay. It's not just about hot water. It's about water in general. Very few hotels can maintain adequately strong water pressure throughout the hotel. So on different floors, not alternating floors, but different floors, they'll put in a booster pump. So when you check into the hotel, before you ever get your room key, ask the front desk clerk, who probably will not know the answer to the question and will probably have to make a phone call. Can you tell me which floors the booster pumps are on? And let's say the clerk says floor 3, 5, 9, 11, 13, whatever. Say, great, I'll take a room on the 5th floor. Now, why did I pick 5? Many of you know I'm also a fireman, and many firemen will tell you that most fire departments cannot effectively fight a fire above the 7th floor anywhere. I mean, it's a tough, tough challenge. So for those of you who like high rooms, high hotel room floors, you got a very big, beautiful, wonderful view of the fire department being unable to reach you. But take the room on the floor below the 7th floor that's got a booster pump on that floor. You go into the bathroom, you open the shower door, you turn on the faucet, and it's a fire hose. Great water pressure. Okay, there you go. Moving along. Our friend John Lample is at Terminal 5, LHR, waiting a flight to Boston. All right. Well, go to Wagamama while you're there. That's my favorite noodle place at T5 at London. Evelyn's saying hello from Denver. Willie's saying greetings from Denver. Oh, another Denver. Hope everyone is doing well. We are. Okay. Jim and Harriet saying hello again. Okay. Lindy's saying bonjour from Ventura. Yeah, the French-speaking people in Ventura. We'll be in Seattle for a few days in July, thinking about doing the Boeing Everett factory tour. Have you been? Is it worth it? You know what? I've been many times. It really is worth it. That factory is so big, and this is not an exaggeration. It's not a bogus claim. It's got so many square feet footage in that factory. It has its own weather system. Sometimes it's been known to rain inside the factory. That's how big it is. It's staggeringly big and well worth the visit. I admit to this. I end up in the store and buy all my Boeing tchotchkes, being the av geek that I am. But seriously, take the tour. It's well worth it. And do the museum. I mean, don't just take the tour of the factory, do the museum. Some amazing aircraft in there with some amazing stories to tell. Okay, Rico's saying good morning from Boise. Okay. Okay. Tayo says, when we see that we have a flight layover, especially internationally, what is something we can do proactively to ensure a seat on the next flight in case it leaves without us? Well, here's the thing. Chances are you're booking your flights ahead of time. You should book your seats ahead of time, unless you're rolling the dice and hoping for an upgrade and you don't have a seat assignment to begin with. I'm not sure I understand your question. Brenda saying hello from, In Switzerland. Okay. And Melanie's saying hi from Miami, heading to Albany on Saturday, and was hoping for a break from the Miami heat. All right. Well, let me know how it goes. Okay. Mary Louise, hello from Tempe. Tempe, Arizona? What's the temperature there today? Okay. Oh, Sue miscalculated and said she thought the country with the most islands was Greece. Of course, you've already stood corrected there. Colleen got Sweden right. And Melanie got the Philippines right. I have no idea why Priya would guess Norway, but not true. Okay, Jim and Harriet got the Philippines. Philippines came out pretty good on that test today. Brenda says, I knew it was Sweden. I was there for 3 summers. I have to tell you, I've toured the Stockholm archipelago. It really is 24,000 islands. Not many of them are inhabited, but if you're on the right boat with the right captain, there are many times you can stop and picnic or stop and get mussels. It's remarkable. The water is cold, but it didn't stop me from jumping in. After all, it is summer in Sweden. Okay. Willie says, heading on my first cruise in the Western Med in a couple of weeks on Voyager of the Seas, going to Palma, Corsica, Nice. Oh my God. Great itinerary. Any suggestions in any of these ports? You know what, Willie? Email me, peter@petergreenberg.com, and we'll try to give you some answers on that. Kimberly just got back from Sweden. Gorgeous. It is. All right. Charlie's giving us a report. I guess LSU is still in the College World Series. We don't have a final score on that yet. Okay. Joyce says, I went to Mexico last week. When the plane landed, no one stood up as they usually do. Eventually, each row exited one by one. The same thing coming back, but only the first half of the plane passengers stood up and the back of the plane waited. Wow. She said, is there something new going on as far as remaining seated? No, perhaps the passengers were heavily sedated. I don't know the answer to that. I wish I did. All right. Sandy says, we have a flight on September 1 from Entebbe to Brussels with a 1-hour connection in Charles de Gaulle. That's cruel and unusual punishment. You should never have a 1-hour connection at Charles de Gaulle, especially if you're changing terminals. No way could we make it, especially if the aircraft is late. Not to mention your bags. We had to pay a change fee to change the flight to end in Brussels, go through immigration in Brussels, pick up bags, and then who booked this flight? Sandy. Email me again, peter@petergreenberg.com, with more specifics about the flight numbers, what you did. Maybe there's a way around it. Okay. Mr. Cooney saying hello from LA. He's actually back in LA. Okay. Red saying, watching from Omaha. Good option for summer travel is Amtrak with their pass program. I couldn't agree more. Most people don't know that Amtrak has I won't call it an unlimited train pass, but it's a great train pass. It's in increments of either 15 days or 30 days. And what's great about it is hop on and off privileges. So if you plan it properly, I like to joke, you can visit every one of your dysfunctional relatives and get it done in one trip. And if you plan it properly, all kidding aside, you'll save money on hotels if you do some of the night trains. So check that out. Amtrak does a terrible job of making people aware of this program, but any travel agent can sell it to you. Okay. By the way, you know how much it is for the 15-day version? I think it's $500 for adults and $250 for kids under 12. It's a great deal. Joyce says, what's the best floor to be on a cruise ship? Well, take your cruise ship brochure and throw it out. Every cabin that you see in those pictures is shot with the widest angle lens known in the history of photography. How much time are you spending in your cabin other than to sleep and shower? Answer, 0. But it makes you think you'll be entertaining every one of your neighbors on the balcony that you can't even squeeze out to. Everybody wants a balcony cabin. Everyone wants a cabin with a view. Let's go back to thinking about 2 things: how much you're spending and your comfort. I'm an inside middle cabin guy. I really am. Why? For the same reason I just gave you. I'm only there to sleep and shower. The center of gravity is such that you're not what? You're not pitching. You're not rolling as much. you're down there, which means much more comfortable if the sea is rough. And if you want a great view, and if you want more space, here's what you do. Open the door. Walk out and experience the entire ship. Okay? Okay. Rita says, my suitcase San Francisco to Geneva did not make the transfer via Heathrow. It took 2 days for United to get it to my little ski town outside Montreux. Okay. Well, what was your connect time? And the reason why I asked that is because most people don't know this as it applies to Heathrow. What's the minimum suggested connect time for you going through Heathrow? It's 3 hours. But here's the rub. What's the minimum connect time suggested for your bags going through Heathrow? 4 hours. Do the math. That's a problem. Now, since these were European Union flights, what's your compensation for that? Did they reimburse you basic necessities, toiletries, maybe a shirt? Let me know what happened. Okay. Priya says she loves using the sim. It's about $2 a day. Convenient. Okay. If you can find a sim for that amount of money that gives you the flexibility, the data, the roaming, and the voice that makes sense, do it. I still go back to my T-Mobile thing. I just happen to like it, but I'm not opposed to it. All right. Okay. Oh, Sandy says they told you could make that connection. Anybody who tells you can make a 1 hour connection in Charles de Gaulle on international flights and your bags are going to connect, I think they're smoking crack. Unless it's an Air France to Air France connection in the same terminal, which hardly ever happens. Just saying. All right. Now, we do our geography quiz, but I got to share with you the stupid passenger of the week. I'm going to show you a video. This is what happens when a passenger in, I believe it was China, and I'm going to read this to you so you can understand what's going on, had a bag issue where they were told they either had to check their bag or they couldn't bring their bag on board the plane. This is what happened. It happened in Milan, as you can see, which, by the way, has the most ridiculous name for an airport ever invented, Malpensa. And that's Italian for bad thought. Why would you name an airport Bad Thought? I'll let you decide. Crazy, huh? And by the way, she didn't win the war. She lost on that one. Okay. Now, people have been asking me to do this. I promised I'd set it up, and now we have set it up. It's all going to benefit charity. I'll tell you the charity in a minute. You get to bid for lunch with me. That's right. A lunch with me. We'll go to a great restaurant. I'll tell you where in a second. And all your travel questions answered. I get to learn about you, of course, and I get to also answer all your questions. And the charity is Operation USA. If you go to their website, opusa.org, you'll see the work that they do. They were founded by Julie Andrews many, many years ago, almost 40 years ago, if not longer. I take that back. More than 40 years ago. And in the interest of transparency, I'm also on the board. They've done amazing work in removing landmines in Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos, in providing prosthetic devices to the people who weren't so lucky, who stepped on grenades. They're one of the first ones in with needed supplies. Anytime there's a natural disaster or conflict around the world, they're able to muscle extra cargo space from airlines who've cooperated with them to bring pallet after pallet after pallet of much needed supplies for the first responders, as well as the communities that they're helping. So go to their website to see more about what they do. and know that every dime that you pledge or that you bid, if you're the winning bidder, will go directly to them, nobody else. And what this includes is lunch with me somewhere in the United States where we're going to be shooting our television show or doing our radio show. It will include your airfare and one night at a hotel, and we'll come up with a really cool restaurant as well. We're going to start the bidding at $2,500. Again, this is money that's going to a great cause, and they need it. They really need it. Operation USA. Again, check out their website, opusa.org, and they will be happy to participate in this simply because there's so many people out there who need it. Now, how do you do the bid? The bidding starts at $2,500. The bidding closes on July 10th, and the highest bidder gets lunch. How do you bid? Send in your name, a contact number for you, and your bid to lunchwithpeter@petergreenberg.com. Lunchwithpeter@petergreenberg.com. And next week and all the way through till July 10th, we will let you know where the bidding stands so you can make adjustments if necessary. But let's raise a lot of money, guys, for the people who do need it the most. That's Operation USA. That's opusa.org. I hope you guys will participate, and I promise it will be a great lunch with lots of great stories. And I can't tell you the location, but it will be somewhere in the U.S., which will add to the fun. So your airfare is covered, your hotel is covered, obviously your lunch is covered. I'll be there, and it's going to opusa.org. So thank you in advance for anything you can do to make that work. All right, let's go to some other questions that you guys sent in during the week. Okay. Matthew says, I had pleasant experiences in recent visits to the Delta Sky Club in Detroit. Very clean, good selection of food. Staff were friendly and professional, and no line to enter, nor to exit. What you haven't told me, Matthew, is you went at 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon. Probably not, but congratulations. I'm glad somebody had a good experience at a Sky Club, given the number of people jamming in there. Maya says, I heard you could get into airport lounges even if you're flying economy. How does that work? It has nothing to do with your class of service. It has to do with your membership, right? If you're a member of the club, you get in. Now, you can also buy day passes. Certain clubs allow you to do that, and they average about $50. Now, if you have a 40-minute connection, don't buy the day pass. If you have a 7-hour connection, that day pass might work. So check with the individual club at the individual airport that you're going. But again, those day passes have been restricted in so many locations lately because the clubs are overcrowded. But they do sell them if they're not. Okay. Matthews. Oh, another one from Matthew. It would be so helpful if you would testify before the Congressional Transportation Committee. They don't want to hear from me. I'll be glad to do it. But remember, I'm just reporting on the problem. I happen to think I know a lot more about it than they do, simply because it's what I cover. But let's hope that, again, you've got to fix the problem at its source. The basic mandate of the FAA needs to be restructured. The basic relationship of the FAA that it has with manufacturers and operators needs to be completely thrown out and redone so that they understand that the airlines and the manufacturers are not their clients. We are, citizens of the United States, are the clients. But thank you for that notion. Okay. Derek says, what's the best way to avoid tourist traps in big cities like Paris or Bangkok? How about any city in the world? Are you ready? People don't know how to do this. They've lost the art of the conversation. When I check into a hotel, who's the first person I talk to answer your question? The maids. I want to know, hey, where you live, what's the coolest thing to do in your neighborhood? Not going to a theme park, not going to a fast food restaurant we all know, but where do they go? Where do they take their families? What's their fun moments? What's their happy place? And I go there. You know what? Never disappointed. They're unbelievable resources of information. I'll give you another one if you ever have the time. By the way, this has nothing to do with Paris or Bangkok. This could even be Cleveland. Where's the first place I stop in a U.S. city or even a foreign city if I have time to do it? And I try to make the time to do it. You ready? Nobody ever gets this. The firehouse. Why? Well, not just because I'm a firefighter here in New York. No. Firefighters, think about this. They've been in everybody's house. They've been in everybody's hotel. They've been in everybody's restaurant. They've been in everybody's attraction. They know where to go. They know where not to go. And let's not forget, they know where to eat. They're a great resource of information. They're the nicest people in the world, as everybody can attest, and they're happy to talk to you. Go do it. Okay. Here we go. Elena says, is travel insurance actually worth it, or is it just a waste of money? Well, the travel insurance that you see on your screens when you go to make an online reservation, that constitutes trip cancellation and interruption insurance. And you can never understand the policy online. I tell you always never to buy it online, even though you can't complete the transaction unless you either opt in or opt out. So opt out. Then go to a travel advisor who can walk you through the policy language so you know if it's worth it for you. Now, if you're on a $59 ticket on Southwest, don't buy it. If you're on a $5,900 cruise, you might consider it. But again, don't buy it online. Never buy it online. Go to a travel advisor. They can sell you the policy. They can also explain it to you to see if you don't have any exclusions that would make the policy void, right? A lot of policies have pre-existing medical clauses. They have pre-existing location clauses, right? Not everybody's selling insurance to Somalia or to Syria these days, but you get the point. And of course, they have some age exclusions as well. But still, have that conversation with a travel agent or a travel advisor. That's when you'll know you can make an intelligent choice about your investment in the trip and whether or not that insurance has any validity for you. Okay, let's keep going on here. Noah says, I have TSA pre-check, but not global entry. Should I upgrade if I'm flying international? The rhetorical question of the year, Noah, yes. Global entry is the best thing to happen since sliced bread when it comes to a U.S. government policy. I'm sure there are a lot of people watching me right now who have global entry who would concur with that. Get it. And you'll thank me, right? Okay. Rita says, can I trust vacation rentals in lesser known countries, or should I stick to hotels? I don't trust vacation rentals in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. So what do? Goes back to the conversation. I have a conversation with the owner. We come up with a mutually agreeable definition of terms as to how close it is to transportation, how close it is to restaurants or attractions, how big the rooms really are, how much the cleaning fee is going to be. A big issue in many cases. All sorts of other things, right? You don't just book this online and roll the dice. You have a conversation, no matter where you are going. All right. Zoe says, are overnight trains in Europe still a thing? Yeah, they are the thing for me. You know what? You know what train I love taking? The overnight train from Paris to the south of France, along the Côte d'Azur. As you wake up at 5:30 in the morning, you're hugging the coast. The sun is rising. You can't get more romantic, and it works. That's just one of the night trains. Okay. Brian says, I'm heading to Argentina this year. Is it better to bring U.S. dollars or just use local ATMs? The answer is zero. Don't do either. What I mean is don't exchange dollars for Argentinian pesos in the U.S. That's a loss leader. Bring U.S. dollars in small denominations, right? A lot of ones and fives. And for tipping, do what I always do. Make sure your bank has them before you go. Go to the bank and ask for $200 in $2 bills. They're legal tender, and people love getting them because they are legal, but it also does what? Starts a conversation, which is what international travel is all about. If you want to use an ATM, please do, but don't do it at the airport. Don't do it at money changers. Go to local banks, change your money there. Using an ATM that's not going to charge you a fee to use a private terminal. A lot of U.S. banks will do that now. Check with your local issuing bank to see if they will do that, either waive the fee or rebate it. Okay? That way you're only taking out what you need, and you're not going to get stuck with a lot of commissions on both sides of that transaction. All right. Photo of the week time. Let's do it. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Theodora Reyes writes, as I was walking along the beach early one morning in front of the Finch Bay Hotel on the Galapagos Islands, I saw this baby shark swimming in shallow water. Yep, a lot of sharks in the Galapagos. I've gone swimming with them. Why? They're nurse sharks, and it was amazing. But I love the idea that he presented a photo op, and you jumped on it, and you survived. Theodora, thank you for your photo. If you think you've got one that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Send it to us. Photo contest at petergreenberg.com. And if we concur, it goes right up there with Theodora's. We are racing around the world again this week. Listen in for our radio show this Saturday, coming from Chicago, America's second city in so many ways. I happen to believe Chicago is America's best, largest, most underrated city. I know that because when I was a University of Wisconsin student in Madison, I found an excuse almost every weekend to head south on I-90 to go down to Chicago. I'm happy every time I did that. I'm happy every time I still do. So check it out, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern time. If you can't find a station in your market easy to listen to, go to our website, petergreenberg.com, about 5 minutes after the hour, and we stream it live. So I'll join you there. Of course, on Amazon, Apple TV, and YouTube, we've got Hidden Uganda. We've got season 10 of The Travel Detective, and we've got more specials coming later this year, including Alabama, Egypt, Malta, and Hong Kong, and we're just getting started. Those are all 1 hour specials, so look for those. Thanks to Anthony out in California for doing the electronics today on the editing. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of the week. We'll update, of course, Air India and also what's going on in the Middle East as we speak on our website and again on the radio show. And I'll see you next week from another location somewhere around the world. Bye, everybody.
I'm in a New York State. Oh, my.
Peter Greenberg's live global travel update is presented to you by Air Canada, connecting the world with more than 1,000 daily flights to 180 destinations and 6 continents.